Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Leslie, in the foothills of Mount Fuji. From it, the name which it takes, Fuji Speedway, of course, helped to bring on this international circuit of absolute class. Obviously, largely known for its absolutely iconic start-finish straight, which has seen many a battle and duel over the years. Of course, a circuit owned by Toyota, made about in its natural rival against the Honda-owned Suzuka. But today we see the GT3s of the RacingLab Summer GT3 Cup. I'm Tim Cox with Lewis Ward in the virtual booth, but Zeb Bosher-Williams should be joining us shortly. He's having a couple of technical issues right now, but what a season it has been so far. And tonight takes in the final round. Got qualifying just about to get underway before we head across into a 1 hour long race, and it's going to be an absolute cracker yet again, I'm sure. Just waiting for the drivers to complete some of their out laps right now. We've got the usual suspects here for this league, and we'll get to find out who's picked up second place in the championship. This has been a closely fought affair all season long. But right now, it'll be Steinbaraten on pole. It remains to be seen, and taking it very slowly on the outlap there, trying to keep tyre pressures and namely the temperatures in his tyres down, not trying to cook them too hard. Just keep you updated on the track temperatures. Is really low, 20 degrees Celsius here today in Japan, which is going to provide plenty of grip for the drivers out there. And a relatively cool 18 degrees Celsius ambient, which I know compared to in the UK right now, that's definitely a lot cooler. And I wish it was 18. As he heads around that final corner to launch it out down this iconic start, the finish straight, measuring a kilometre in length. I'm sure we're going to see lots of slipstreaming, lots of duels. Potentially even someone getting past someone and then being able to retake that place from them into turn one. It's Ombron with Steinbaraten. Still waiting. It feels like forever before you hit the somewhere between the 150 and the 100 board, and then onto the brakes, and then hooking up nicely using all that curb on the outside before we head through. And now into turn 3. Coca-Cola calling this fast left-hander, clipping the bollard on the inside. And yet using plenty of corner on the outside through 100R, which pretty much makes up turns 4 and 5. This double apex corner. And then almost immediately into turn 6, the hairpin. Lots of room out on the exit there. I'm sure we're going to see a few duels and maybe in the first lap, banging of doors through there. This is pretty much flat out through 7, 8, 9. Before you get to Dunlop corner, hard onto the brakes, turn 10. Pretty much double backing yourself, then through 11, which comes at you instantly, and then straight into 12. Almost like a chicane, pretty much. It doesn't quite feel like it with Dunlop corner being a hairpin. Then through turns 14, and then 15, Nets corner. This is a bit of an off-camber corner. It feels really clumsy. You have to watch out for those yellow sausage curves on the outside. That's through Panasonic corner. Turn 16, the last corner. So crucial here with this long start-finish straight. So we're going to see some drivers get some times on the board. Bang taking provisional pole and setting the pace on 36.2. Helvig just behind him. He's been at it all season long. Steinbaraten, well, there you go. Top of the timing sheets. First lap, no messing. 3.5 tenths quicker than Meyervang. Simonsen comes across the line and a little bit off pace now, but still plenty of chances as drivers do have 4 laps available to them. But looks like all the drivers will be, well, have so far taken the first lap and then have headed out again to keep the car in absolute top tip. Well, mainly the tyres in the best possible condition as we head through. But I'll instant Seb, you're now back with us after overcoming a few gremlins.
I certainly am. Good evening, everybody watching this at home. Steinbart and Tim quickly to the top of the timing stands. We've really come to accustomed to seeing him there. He's taken all pole positions this season, and he wasn't, in fact, quickest, I should say, in practice. So very interesting. Interesting dynamics at play. Helvig in third. Really sort of our top 3 once again here, Tim.
Certainly seems that way, doesn't it, Seb? Certainly seems that way. As head across the line, Meyervang. Can he improve on this lap? It remains to be seen. It's the final chance this season. We're going to see a different winner in this round. That's the crucial and interesting one, isn't it, Seb?
It really...
Oh, Simonsen, just not sure if he was attempting a bit of grass dipping there or just got fed up with his lap and just quick grass there. Round he goes. Nice little handbrake turn almost-esque on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, no grass dipping, of course, these days, all been patched out. Steinbraten taking a very wide line out of the final corner. He's trying to get the best possible straight line speed down into turn 1. That's where you're going to gain a little bit extra time. Steinbraten not necessarily needing that time at the moment, Tim. 3.5 tenths separating himself and Meyervang in second, but Steinbraten clearly wanting to get the absolute most out of his lap time. Atul Rude, the number 95 Ferrari, our top Ferrari here, he's on a good lap, improved in both sectors 1 and 2. Where does he come across the line in the final sector? He doesn't, in fact, improve, so he stays in 7th place. Espresso Ryan Jr., can he topple his Ferrari teammate? No, he cannot, so Ferraris remain 7th and 8th. Anders Meyer, am I right in saying, Tim, he's a newcomer to this season? We've obviously seen him in other series in the Apex Racing TV world, but I don't believe we've seen Meyer actually racing in this series.
We haven't, Seb. We haven't, and definitely a quick driver. Of course, we saw him last time would have been, well, for myself personally, would have been the Nordic F3 Championship, which we covered here on Apex Racing TV. As Steinbart on another quicker lap. Ooh, well, goes faster than anyone in Sector 1, but no improvement in Sector 2. Interesting to see whether he can extend that gap as he has at the top and secure a clean sweep of pole positions this season. Seb, a bit of an interest one about the Ferraris. I think they're going to be tricky to pass down that start-finish straight. The Ferraris are notoriously quick in a straight line. As you see, we'll come to that question just shortly. As you see Steinbraten about to head across the line. Is it an improvement in time? Let's find out. Well, no, it isn't. Goes marginally slower by 0.03 of a second. Well, that's consistency for you. You can't argue with that one. But it's like no one's really improving right up now, aren't there? The lesser stages of qualifying. And Seb, just talking about, I picked up about the Ferraris. Incredibly strong in a straight line. It's Rude, one of them that goes faster. New personal best 138.1. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, as you are a resident GT expert, they're going to be really tricky to pass, and I think they're going to be electric down the start-finish rate and into Turn 1.
Oh, they certainly will be. Yeah, the Ferrari, I think, is the quickest GT3 in a straight line. Where it lacks from the other cars is in the corners, but of course it doesn't matter really so much around Fuji. So much of the track is dominated by this kilometre straight. Anders Meyer goes up to 3rd place as well. But the other thing is that the Mercedes are not half bad in a straight line as well, and they've got a really good sort of mid-speed car as well. So I think the Mercedes are going to be really strong. But you know, if you're Thormodson, that we actually see on our screen at the moment, and you're starting behind the Ferraris, you've got to be rapid on that opening lap to get past them and build that gap. Otherwise, I could see, you know, Thormodson just battling with the Ferraris all of the race long, because, as you're right, those Ferraris are going to be so quick in a straight line. I think it might really frustrate some drivers as we head sort of into this hour-long race.
Well, Thormodson, which you're seeing, they're just struggling with grip, it seems, leaving the rear end into, probably where we are right now, on board with the Rude. Let's go into the hairpin where he lost that, and as we head down the start-finish straight, we're going to see an improvement from Attel Rude. Let's find out. Of course, the top of the 2 Ferraris with Ryan just behind him, 4 attempts in qualifying. Isn't an improvement. Age, it seems as... Oh, there's the other Ferrari of Ryan. Finding the barrier. I'm not even sure how he's managed to do that, Seb, because it's quite a steep climb up to that barrier up there, and well, it looks like it's gone bad in a very big race. So let's take a little look at the replay of how this has happened. Wow, everything seems okay. Oh, it catches a bit of frustration maybe kicking in that. No improvement in his lap, and decided to style it out by putting it into the barrier. But let's take you through your final grid of the season. And it's only Steinbraten making it a clean sweep of 5 pole positions from 5. Stefan Halvig of RSR by G Performance starts alongside me on the front row of the grid. 3rd position is Anders Myers of RacingLab Esports. RP Esports driver Myvang starts alongside him on the 2nd row. Towards Ander Berven of Team Vikings, he's got Eric Sivertson of Team Slow-Mo with him on the 3rd row of the grid. Then it's Attel Rude and another Team Slow-Mo driver starting behind his teammate on the grid. It's Espesso Ryan Jr. in the Ferrari. Forward to Thormodson even. In the lone BMW starts in 9th with Aloxon alongside him on the 5th row of the grid. I'm going to round out your top 10. Then it's Bjorn Royce in 11th in a Mercedes. Mercedes bookending the field here today in Japan. As the drivers now take to the grid, and we will get away shortly behind the Porsche 911 safety car, as always here in the road racing on iRacing. There is your grid. Steinbraten, of course, starting from pole, a clean sweep of pole positions. Can he make it a clean sweep of victories? We don't have long to find out before we head out into this hour-long race. Most drivers will need to pit, and we've seen that play a part of the story once or twice so far this season, Seb, haven't we?
Oh, we certainly have. I don't think anybody will forget that Red Bull Ring race where 2nd place was decided on who took or didn't take a windshield tear-off. And Imola as well, the last round, that was really strategic. Many drivers trying to fuel save it and to minimise the time that they're going to spend stationary in the pits. I think we're going to see exactly the same today. It's really going to be advantage the driver who is following another car. Helvik, you know, comes to mind, our second place driver. He's going to be able to fuel safe. He's going to use Steinbraten to punch a hole in the air, and Steinbraten's got it all to do. He's in the lead, but he's going to have to fuel safe so hard. This is the best chance I think we're going to see of Steinbraten being under challenge for the race win.
Well, Seb, we get to find out if your prediction is true or not. So we wait for the Porsche safety car to pull in. Long wait to the entrance to the pits. And Steinbraten taking control of the field here as everyone rumbles past. Is he going to go late? Is he going to go early? Ryan, you see in the Ferrari holding back there, but he's going. We're going for the final time this season, and we are green. Let's get ready for an epic final round here in Fuji. And Steinbraten not hanging around, but look at Meyer just on the attack up the inside, trying to reclaim that place from Meyerbank in the Mercedes. Porsche looking strong in these early stages, but not able to reclaim that place from Meyerbank. Just having to tuck in behind him. The field streams through, and it is, well, nose to tail. Oh, there's something I think has happened to Bevan in the Porsche. She's falling through the order. I think we can take a little look about what's happened there. Well, everything seems okay. See him in the Porsche there. Oh, bumped across the curb, Seb, and wow, that's straight into the barrier. Wow, nearly collected. I think that was, yeah, Axel Ruud there. As he came, well, I say came onto the track, but through no fault of his own. He was no chance of controlling the car. Well, the wheels are up off the air and not connected with the ground, and it's spinning furiously out of control.
Yeah, no grip to be found in the air for Bevan. I mean, really disastrous start for him. A lot of front-end damage as well for good measure. So unlucky, though. I never really noticed how deep and how bumpy, actually, the curb is on the outside of turn 3. I'm sure towards Anders Bevan didn't actually know either. Reminds me of Daniel Ricciardo at Melbourne a few years ago at the start of the Formula 1 season, when he found that grate at the start. Drivers just don't tend to drive that far out, and it's a combination of just, you know, cold tyres, a lot of fuel on board, and you're in this melee at the start where you start exploring pieces of the track that you don't necessarily find when you're in practice or even qualifying. So unlucky for Bevan, but he can get back to the pits, he can repair, and, you know, this race is going to be long, it's going to be thrilling, and I'm sure there'll be an opportunity for the Porsche driver to to make his way through the field once again. What I noticed, Tim, though, Helvik really sticking with Steinbraten. That slipstream going to play a big factor in this race. Steinbraten, as I said before we got going in the race, he's going to be under pressure for the entirety of this race.
He still is, isn't he? Helvik right on his tail. Meyerbank and Meyer not too far behind either. Top 4 breaking away. Simonsen, best of the rest for now, but Ryan, he's already up 2 places into 6th. Well, make that 3 because he's going to have his work cut out right around the outside here. So come on to the brakes through 12, and Simonsen just getting his elbows out there and nudging Ryan wide, who's they're instantly backed right up into Ruud. If he's not careful here, Seb. Oh, that was across the curbs on the exit there. Goes Simonsen, the Mercedes. Just saw him bouncing around as he hit the sausage curbs. More like a Bocking Bronco than a Mercedes GT AMG. But Ryan really under a lot of pressure right now, and Ruud looking for the cutback, just trying to line up, trying to settle him up, and Ryan just catching some of the curving on the outside a bit too much. And Ruud is firmly in the slipstream. Here we go. The number 11 in him. That number on the rear of the car getting larger and larger as he pulls out of the slipstream. And they drag it out down to turn 1. And on the inside is Ruud. And surely, wow, bit surprising there. Alexis to back out of it. As we see there, Loxon moving up a position in the Audi for now against Formundsen. Formundsen just tucking instantly back in behind Loxon. A little bit surprised by Ruud there, Seb. I thought he would have got the move done and dusted.
Yeah, Ferrari power versus Ferrari power, and if you're Rude, unfortunate for him, Ryan had the slipstream from Sivertsen. He was losing ground on the straight, but Ryan just within that magical second gap. But I think this is the lap where Espresso Ryan Jr. is going to come under pressure from Atul Rude. Sivertsen, I should say, starting to break that 1 second barrier, and Ryan now is going to be very vulnerable on the long straight. But Rude, I wonder as well if he's just playing the long game. We saw him almost colliding with Bevan in the Porsche at the start. Maybe just trying to recollect his composure, thinking about the long game. Don't be shocked at how much an incident like that at the start of the race can impact on a driver. You almost feel like that's your dose of luck that's gone. And you have to really be aware and make sure that you don't put yourself in any more positions that could be race ending. So maybe that incident at the start playing on the mind of Atul Rude at the moment. We head onto the straight, and actually Rude nowhere near the back of Ryan this time around, Tim. So I doubt he'll be making the move into turn 1.
Of course, as you mentioned, Ryan does have that slipstream from Sivertsen. He's punching a hole in the air for, well, both of those two, and I'm sure a bit of a distant tow Loxon is getting from Rude as well. Formington tucks up right behind him. Seb, as I mentioned earlier, you are a resident GT expert here at Apex Racing TV, and what would be your strategy right now? Do you just play a bit safe, or do you go for a bit of hell for leather, be a bit adventurous? It's the final round of the season. No chance to improve on championship standings past this. It's all or nothing, maybe.
I think for some of the drivers out here, I can certainly see that attitude playing out. Anders Meyer in 4th really comes to mind, a driver that has nothing to lose. And yeah, why not push 110%, try and make up as many positions as possible. Here we have a little bit of action, Tim.
We do. Formanson's looking around the outside, and he's looking for the cutback there. Loxon just in front of him. Down getting a little bit twitchy there on the exit 11 and into 12, but struggle to overtake around here unless there's a mistake made by the car in front of you. As we see our lead group, and Meyer just starting to drop back a little bit from him, that Porsche right now. RacingLab esports driver just falling off the pace a little bit. As we see Rude once again gaining and gaining and gaining on Ryan. Down to 4 tenths of the second, now into 3 attempts. But he's not going to be close enough. And you can see Ryan just so much later on the brakes there, Seb. You can almost, obviously you heard from the dip of the engine note when we were on board with Rude, just where he'd started braking. And Ryan's lights weren't even on at that stage. His brake lights, that is.
Yeah, really surprising. You tend to see, you know, if the driver is in the same machinery as you up ahead, that you brake it at relatively the same point. You've got the same powertrain behind you. You're most likely running a very similar setup. Ryan, though, very wide through turn 6, the hairpin. That's going to really put him on the back foot as we head now up through 300R towards the Dunlop corner. I think Ryan just practically got more confidence in the braking capabilities of that 488 GT3.
We're seeing a replay of locks. You can see the rear getting twitchy and getting loose, and that is what happened, and he's straight into the barrier on the inside. It's into turn 6. Locks in after running so strong, all the hard work undone. As I tell you what, after the Porsche of Bevan, the Team Vikings, after that incident we saw in the opening lap, has managed to get up and running and out again, and I'll tell you what, he's setting some strong times right now, Seb.
He is. He's very close, actually, to race leader pace. So Bevan decided to stay out for a few laps to almost assess the damage and realise that the car was just a little bit too far gone in that respect. So he's come into the pits. He's taken his one and only fast repair. And if you're new to iRacing, what that means is he's come in and almost effectively gotten a new car. All the damage was instantly repaired, but that is his token gone. If he has another issue, he will not be able to get those services again. But Bevan now out of the pits, and I think it might be a little bit of a dark horse in this race. It's actually one of my favourite sayings, but Bevans, he's already taken his pit stop. He can just run to the end now. We're seeing other drivers, you know, Helvik, Meyervang playing the fuel-saving game, but Bevan here doesn't have to do anything of the sort. He can just drive his absolute best pace every single lap, qualifying laps almost, and Bevan at the end of the race could be sort of getting close to Loxon, Thormodson, even that Ruud Ryan battle. So it's not all over for Thor's Anders Bevan, but what it is a lot harder than it could have been if he didn't make that mistake on the exit of turn 3.
Definitely costing him dearly right now, and Ruud, I must say, is just caught in the background. It's a bit deceptive due to the length of the start-finish right here. That I saw Steinbart and Halvik start to turn out onto the start-finish straight. There you go. Did indeed. I tell you what, Anders Meyer's heading into the pits. That is...
Oh, he's got damage.
Oh, he has, hasn't he, Seb? Has he had an incident somewhere? I'm sure he didn't have that a couple of laps ago.
I'm sure he didn't either. His pace has been good. Sorry to cut across you there. Actually, last time by was his first slow lap, so I think he's picked up that damage on the last time round. So what has happened to Anders Meyer?
I don't know. I'm having a bit of a look through our event log here that we have within our fabulous SDK gaming software, which is you can use to broadcast your leagues, as we do for all of them here at Apex Racing TV, and also utilize it for your team strategy with the enhanced fuel calculators, mini maps, relative boxes, and the most accurate live timing software available on iRacing. And we don't have anything appearing there, so I'm not sure how he's quite managed that one. That is a bit of a strange one. The only thing I can think of is maybe if he's hit one of the sausage curves and given that a good old clout for its money. As you can see, well, dancing with the devil there, Steinbart, and dodging those sausage curves to good effect. As look who's back on the rear end of Ryan. Once again, it's Atle Ruud, but equally, I tell you what, Sivertsen, he's doing well right now, isn't he, Seth? Because not only is he basically comfortably keeping these two at bay, but also he's punching a hole for them in the air, down the start-finish straight, and still remaining in front. As I tell you what, Ryan looked like he's under a lot of pressure. That gap between himself and Ruud is closed right up. And Ryan is out of the slipstream as Sivertsen. I think this is Atle Ruud's chance now, Seb. This is all or nothing for him. His prime opportunity to get the move done, and you can see him gaining and gaining and gaining down to a 10th for the second, but backs right out of it there, Seb. In dramatic style, very early. Do you think fuel saving in the slipstream, maybe? That's what it says to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Tim. Atle Ruud playing the long game here. He wants to fuel save. He wants to try and extend this opening stint as much as possible. He wants to do what we've seen Steinbart and Helvik and Meyervang do at the front of the pack and just minimize the time that they're stationary in the pits. And Atle Ruud there, I mean, that was extreme fuel saving. You hit the nail on the head there, Tim. You don't tend to see drivers fuel saving that much. I mean, he's lost almost a second to Ryan in a matter of moments. So really, the only thing I can think of, it's almost confusing me a little bit, is Ruud is trying to absolutely fuel save to the absolute max. You see Meyer getting past Loxon there. Meyer already has been into the pits, as we saw. So that's while it is for position, Loxon not really in that battle for 8th place. Oh, there's a car jumping through the air, and I think, Tim, we see Ryan jumping across the curves. I think that's what happened to Anders Meyer. If you look at the front end of that Ferrari, a lot of front end damage now for Espresso Ryan Jr.
Well, that would seem to be the case, and I'll tell you what, Meyer's rejuvenated since coming back out of the pits. So probably fast signs. But here comes Ruud. Once again, he would have witnessed what happened to Ryan in front of him. And surely he's going to pull out and go past. He has a bit of a look. Dips back in once again. Maybe this is a bit of fuel saving, Seb, but it's also, I don't know whether it's a bit of a lack of confidence. I'm doubting myself now, Seb. I'm not too sure. I mean, Ruud, that was prime opportunity, and they could have got straight onto the back of Sivertsen and slipstream off him. So it's, you know, I would understand if Ryan was the only car in front of him. That would make sense to me. Especially knowing that Ryan's probably going to incur damage. Surely, would not the logic have been to pass Ryan and then slipstream off the back of Sivertson, that Mercedes in front of him?
You know, I think I'm starting to agree with you as well, Tim. I'm not sure if Ruud wasn't aware that Ryan went off the track and has picked up a lot of front-end damage, because I think Ashton Ruud, if he is fuel-saving, might come to regret not getting past Espresso Ryan Jr. on that lap, because, you know, Ryan is going to be slower. That car is wounded. It's carrying a lot more drag than it necessarily would have done if he hadn't have impacted the curb. So Ryan's going to just be slower on the long back straight, and you see actually Ryan picking up a little bit of understeer through Net's corner turn 15. Once again, in fact, that car looking a little bit wayward through Panasonic, although actually in the end it's Atul Ruud that takes to the Astro turf. But I think Ruud needed to make that move, and actually Ryan Jr. pulls into the pit, so he's assessed that that car is far too damaged to continue. Actually, Tim, I'll take that back. He's just taking a very defensive line.
What are we talking? And maybe this is what this replay is. Something has happened to Alexander Bevan. So he turns the car in and, well, ran the rear, went with him and just grazed the barrier in the end. Got away with that one, Seb, because that was a high-speed incident.
He did, but unfortunately for Bevan, he's gone back to the pits, I think a little bit frustrated by that car. It just isn't doing what we necessarily expect from a Porsche. The Porsche is known actually being quite a stable car. It's a little bit, you know, when you start pushing the limits of the car, it can get a little bit tail happy, but not normally. So I think Bevan there.
Seb, hold on a second, because, well, talking about getting tail happy, Helvig just losing the rear, and that's brought Maivang right into play, right alongside him in the 889 machine of RPC Esports. And I think this is going to be a change for second place, because they're only a 10th away, or, well, I was saying that. Dipping in and out is Maivang. Down the start-finish straight, underneath the gantry. And this is a true drag race all the way down to turn 1. Evenly matches the pair of them, and Maivang electing just to dip back inside once again. Bit surprised, really, some of the drivers here. I thought, you know, we would have seen, obviously, Maivang overtake there, and likewise with Ruud against Ryan. But tell you what, we've seen the BMW Formanson, and he is stuck with Maya right on his rear bumper and pulling out from the slipstream. Porsche versus BMW. So we head down past the pit exit, but has to dip in once again. A few people struggling out there, Seb, to get the moves done, but Maya managing to get it done. And he is off on his way. Next target is Atul Ruud, 12 seconds up the road, but a little bit surprised. It's almost like the cars are just running out of puff and just unable to get the move done, Seb.
Yeah, that was really strange, especially from Maivang in third. You can almost sort of understand it from Ruud's perspective. He's got, you know, a similar car up ahead. He's not really fighting at the moment, but Maivang with Helvig made a mistake, and actually they've dropped out of the slipstream of Steinbraten. So I would have thought that Maivang would have at least gone for the move and to take that second place. It seems that they've just cost themselves a lot of time, and Steinbraten is looking just absolutely looking at that with absolute glee, realizing that, you know, he doesn't, or he shouldn't be under pressure from Helvig or Maivang. But I think, Tim, Steinbraten has made a mistake on that last lap, because that gap was over a second, but Helvig now got that gap already down to less than half a second.
As we are seeing Ruud and Ryan here being close. Is this going to be a move? Oh no, Ryan just shut the door in Ruud's face, and I'll tell you what, that incident is going to bring Anders Maya right into them, because that gap was 12 seconds. I know he was lapping quicker than those two anyway, but even so, well, there you go. You can practically see them, practically touch them. Sivertson and Ryan are both into the pits. Why now up into fifth, and let's not forget he has stopped. Now, transition time, including his stop, cost him 39.5 seconds, Seb. Still needs to make up a bit of time if he wants to after the pit stops, be in with Steinbart and Helvig and Meyervang, really. I think he needs to make up about another good 5 or so seconds, really.
He does indeed, and actually, interestingly for Anders Meyer, he was only stationary for 5 or so seconds, so he didn't take on board that much fuel, which would suggest that either Anders Meyer is setting himself with a gargantuan task to do in this race and fuel save a lot, or fuel isn't so important around here like it was 1 week ago at Imola. Just quickly going back to that move between Ryan and Ruud, I think Ruud's got to take most of the responsibility for that one. We rode on board actually with Ruud a few laps ago. We saw Ryan struggling to get the car turned in at turn 15. He was taking this wider line, and Ruud should have really been aware of that. Should have known that was always going to happen. Ryan was always going to turn into the corner. We ride on board with Atul Ruud at the moment, and you just see Ruud sends it up the inside, but he's never truly alongside. I know, Tim, you've said before that I do like a Martin Brundle quote, but I think that was a bit of a day late and a dollar short. There was nothing that Ryan could have done there, in my opinion, and Ruud now under pressure from Anders Meyer.
So let's have a listen in as we ride on board, Seb. Up into 6th gear, top gear in these GT3s. And wow, so much more confident and later on the brakes was Meyer compared to Ruud. I do think that is a confidence thing, because Ruud braking incredibly early there. But I suppose you could argue as well, Seb, that just doing it to let Meyer go, knowing that realistically he was probably going to pass him anyway, and that was a more time-efficient way to do so.
I think it's a little bit of both. It's the sort of the not fun answer, but we saw Ruud not really being that confident onto the brakes as we have a look at a little bit of action here, Tim.
Do indeed. It's Meyervang back into the slipstream, ducking, diving in and out like a fiddler's elbow, but Helvig just getting a bit of a toe off Steinbraten right now. That's helping to pull him along as Meyervang has another look, and then it's enough to make Helvig just go defensive there. And clearly the mind games that Meyervang is playing right now, Seb, is working on Helvig, because I think that's the first time I've seen Helvig move out and defend it truly into the braking zone. And I think he's starting to feel a bit under pressure and a bit worried now.
Certainly is. You actually saw Meyervang flash his lights at Helvig, another tactic that these GT3 drivers do to distract the driver up ahead. But I just feel that they almost need to look at the bigger picture here, and it's hard to do from the cockpit. But Steinbraten, you know, he's got the quickest lap of the race by about 3/10. So when these two are not within slipstream, they're not going to be able to catch up to Steinbraten. So they almost need to work together and look at the bigger picture, and maybe if they can both get past Steinbraten, then they can start to squabble. But if they cost themselves too much time, they're just accepting that they won't get the race win. Meyervang had so much oversteer, I should say, on the entrance to turn 13. Manages to collect it all up, but that won't help his tyre temperatures. It won't help his fuel saving either, and Meyervang really pushing at this phase of the race.
Definitely is. They come out to start-finish straight once again. So Ryan has managed to get past Ruud on the pit exit, but can Meyervang get past Helvig? There is Ruud, and wow, Ryan already pulling out quite a big gap already. Right now, that's a gap in the front. It's still remaining as is. This is where it gets a bit interesting, because we're starting to enter into pit stop window time, Seb. And I don't know how to handle this one. I'm sure you will, though. If I was one of the drivers, do I maybe get in and come out against some fast laps? Or, like we've seen, obviously, Meyer do? Or do you elect maybe to stay with these guys and utilise them for slipstream down the start-finish straights, and thus improve your overall lap time that way? I don't know quite what's the best solution here.
I think, to be completely honest, Tim, there is no best case scenario, because if you do pit at this point, you might be in clean air, but that only really matters if you can push 100%. So it's all about where these drivers are with their fuel strategies. If they've got enough to go to the end of the race without having to fuel save, if they still have got to do some fuel saving, then there's no point in them coming into the pits, because they're just going to make their lives a lot harder by not being within that slipstream. We actually saw at Imola that the overcut was actually quicker than the undercut, and what I mean by that is staying out an extra lap than your rivals. You tended to get the advantage and even could make a place up, and that's simply because these cars are so fuel dependent. They run so much quicker when there's less fuel in the tank. So I think, especially for our top three, they'll just stay out as long as they can, try and fuel save. But then, you know, I was going to say, if you were Anders Meyer, you'd come into the pits, but that's exactly what he's done. So he's our use case, as it were. He's the massive undercut strategy. He's the one that's coming early. Be interesting to watch and see what his pace is like. But maybe if you're Maivang, you start to think about coming into the pits and doing something different. Atul Ruud, though, already on the back of Ryan Espresso Jr. before, well, it was like 3 seconds a few laps ago.
I'd say during that sort of infield section, as it were, from turns 3 through to now, right about where they are now, somewhere around sort of like 13. Atul Ruud is much quicker than Ryan, and it's really showing us another bit of a fake look up the inside. Those two have already made contact there as Formundsen into the pits in the BMW from 6th. And I tell you what, was Ryan runs wide once again. Ruud is so much more cleaner, so much more neater with his lines. And I think we're going to see Ruud surely get the move done into turn 1. But talking about moves done into turn 1, while they're at it again, they're moving left, moving right, faking for a pit stop, weaving down the start finish straight, trying to break the toe. Halvik versus Maivang, as Halvik's gone defensive, says to Maivang, you have to do it run the long way, but Maivang says, no, I'm going to try and sneak this up the inside into turn 1, and finally, after following Halvik for 16 laps, Maivang gets the move done. Finally. Now, Seb, what can he do? Can he get onto the Steinbreiten? He needs to get a wiggle on because of that slow compromise line into turn 1. These guys are now 1.1 seconds behind the leader.
He does. He needs to have an absolutely mesmerizing second sector.
Seb, they've come right up onto the back of Frode Formundsen as we see a replay of Loxon in the Audi, and we saw this happen once before, and it's happened again, but this time keeps it out of the barrier. Well done, Stein Andre Loxon. Look at how Halvik is right onto the back of Maivang, already swarming around like a hive of bees right now. Angry ones at that. He wants his place back. He wants second. But Steinbreiten is just lapping it up in his rear view mirrors. Let's take a little look at how it was done here, Seb. I tell you what, this was a real set of mind games on start finish straight.
Yeah, we see Maivang push Halvik to the outside line, sort of forcing him to not take the optimal racing line into turn 1, and that allows Maivang to send it down the inside.
Sorry, Steinbreiten and Halvik there into the pit, so Maivang is continuing on. There they are, our lead 2. Now, Anders Meyer, he is the benchmark, the first driver to pit. Currently in 4th. And a bit of changing up and down gear there from Halvik to try and extract that extra kilometre an hour down the start. So it's down the pit lane. Here's Anders Meyer. And Steinbreiten and Halvik have stopped. They've gone out again. 1.5 seconds was all they were stationing for. You can just about see his lights in the background of the Porsche of Meyer. But it has worked to big effect because Steinbreiten and Halvik have come out. More crucially, they are slightly closer because Halvik, I should say, about 3/10 off on that pit entrance alone compared to Steinbreiten. There was some good work there, but can they now work together to clear Maivang? That is the next big question. 28 minutes gone. Maivang leads, Steinbreiten second and Halvik third. Those two have pitted. Likewise, there's 4th place Anders Meyer. Luxon in the lone Audi in 5th place. He's yet to stop, and he's the only other car who hasn't stopped yet other than Meyervang. With Sivertson, Ryan, Rude, Formanson all running in 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th respectively, with Berven of Team Vikings. He's retired the car back on lap 9, and Royce unfortunately did not make the grid as Meyervang is in. Now, keep one eye out for Steinbratton and Helvig. Where is Meyervang going to come out in relation to the pair of them? As he dips into the pits, here is Steinbratton just coming out of Panasonic. As we head down the start-finish line, and Meyervang is still moving down the pit lane. I tell you what, he hasn't even stopped yet, so he's stationary now. And he's off and running once again. But Steinbratton is going at full chat. And he's going to shoot out straight past him. There we go. You can't see it from this angle, but he's cleared him. And so has Helvig. And by a considerable margin. 6/10 when they come out of the pit lane. That has really worked for Helvig and Steinbratton likewise.
Little bit surprised by that. Meyervang had a really quick in-lap, actually the quickest out of the top 3, but Meyervang must have made a mistake on that lap that Helvig and Steinbratton came into the pits, because I was thinking he was going to comfortably come out in the lead, but that hasn't happened, and that would be really disappointing from the cockpit of the 889 car, because you would have known that he would have had a chance to take the lead, and you feel that frustration within the cockpit, and you start to overdrive the car. So Meyervang really needs to just keep it calm, keep it collected, and see where this race takes him. He's so late onto the brakes, is Meyervang, Tim. He's so committed, and actually you can see the rear of the car moving around a little bit under braking. We've seen it before, and we certainly saw it when he dived to the inside of Helvig into turn 1. That means that Meyervang is running more rear brake bias, so he'll be able to get the car slowed down in a shorter distance, but it's so much trickier to drive. But Meyervang setting up Helvig as we exit turn 16 down the back straight.
That is why we love you here at Apex Racing TV, so for insight and knowledge like no one else when it comes to GTs in iRacing. As Meyervang reeling in Helvig. He's done it once before. Can he do it again? Time is on his side at the moment. 28.5 minutes left remaining here in the final round. The Summer GT3 Trophy with RacingLab. These three covered in their entirety by 1.1 seconds, as they pretty much have been since the start. And I tell you what, Anders Meyer, it hasn't quite, I think that damage definitely didn't help him, Seb, did it? So it forced that early pit stop, but even so, there he is right now, the RacingLab esports driver, and also part-time Valtteri Bottas lookalike, but just hasn't been able to make it work, has he? And now finds himself about 9 3/4 seconds behind Meyervang, and a whopping 10.7 off our leader Steinbratton. And it's such a shame, really. Such a shame. We're looking forward to a four-way battle for the lead, but instead, we've just only got the 3 cars. Who's going to complain at that? No walk-away leader here in this series as Meyervang all over the rear end of Helvig and getting a much neater line and carrying more momentum and more speed out of Panasonic. And here comes the gap shrinking. He has 1 look, he has 2 looks, he has 3 looks, he has 4. He's weaving around, filling the mirrors of Helvig. There's number 5, and we're going to go for 6, but Helvig goes defensive. He has another look, there's 6. And only at Fuji could you weave in and out of the slipstream 6 times along a straight. Such is the length of it here, Seb.
I step back from my monitor as they all headed towards turn 1. I thought with that final look from Odin Meyervang, he was just going to careen into the back of Stefan Helvig. Managed to get it all slowed down. What's happened to Frode Thormanson? Lost the rear end as we headed into turn 1. That's such a tight corner. I think Thormanson there not opening up the corner and really finding that massive drop of camber that you have there. Very reminiscent of the Nürburgring turn 1, and it's the same deal as it is over in Germany, as it is here, you cannot really apex super tight. You have to let the car run out wide. Maivang, though, he needs to get past Helvig. It seems that Maivang has a little bit more pace at the moment, and he needs to capitalise on this pace, while I think Stein Bratton in the lead is fuel saving because he lifted so early before the braking zone of turn 1. So Maivang really needs to strike while the iron is hot.
But Seb, surely if he's fuel saving, all three drivers were stationary for on average 1.5 seconds. Helvig was the longest at 1.6, Maivang the shortest at 1.4, and Stein Bratton exactly on 1.5. And you can see it's just out that exit of Panasonic, the final corner, turn 16. Well, Stein Bratton is just electric because he's able every single time just to pull away just enough to prevent an attack. Because the gap we had previously is they were coming rounding, you know, through 10 through to 15. The gap covering all three of them was 8 tenths of a second, as it's down to right now. You can see in the top left corner of your screen, this Ruud still unable to find a way past Ryan of Team Slow-Mo. Two Ferraris have been locked together since the start of the race pretty much. Inseparable in lap time and on track. And I mean, surely Seb, you've got to leave, be bold, be brave, leave it late in the, well, I say leave it late in the race, but they almost touch wheels, they almost touch wing mirrors in fact. But Ruud unable to get the momentum off the corner, and Ryan just streaming away there. I mean, I do wonder in some ways, Seb, if he's running slightly less wing compared to Ruud. Because, I mean, surely that's the only way you can explain it. He is electric down the start-finish straight. In fact, let's have a little look at their top speeds. Well, I mean, that doesn't truly indicate it. I mean, the top speed, Ryan, 262 kilometers compared to Ruud's 266, but then Ruud is in the slipstream. So when you negate and allow for that, it's, I mean, he is definitely quicker compared to, let's say, Anders Meyer in the Porsche. She's only managing 260. It's, I tell you what, it's but interesting as you see Formanton just come out of the pits just behind our lead group of 3. 9 tenths is all that separates all 3 of them right now. And yeah, just revisiting that point, Sam, I think Ryan maybe running a little less wing, and surely that'll contributing to that wow, amazing pace that he has down the start-finish straight, which is not allowing Ruud to get past, where he has to keep dipping back into the slipstream, and just as hard as he tries, just can't seem to get the move done.
No, I think you're completely right there. Ryan, I think, running less wing to give himself an advantage in the straight line, and it's proving to really be working for Ruud. What I was surprised at when Ruud dived to the inside of turn 16, the final corner where we head through at the minute, I was surprised that A, he did it in the first place. You don't tend to see drivers making successful overtaking moves into turn 16 because you've got the long straight down, and he forced Ryan to the outside, but Ryan was able to take more speed around the outside and just be quicker down the straight. And then Ruud didn't pull into the slipstream. I don't know if he was unaware that Ryan was already past him, and actually by quite some margin, because Ruud, if he'd have dived into that slipstream, gained that speed, he might have been able to get it done onto the brakes there. But I think you're right, Ryan is running a little bit more rear wing. You mentioned the speeds, and it's really interesting, in fact, that there was a 4-kilometer difference between Ryan and Ruud. Ruud being in the slipstream, but you expect to be 6, 7, even 10 kilometers an hour quicker in the slipstream there. So I think Ruud, unfortunately, I think for him, gone the wrong way on setup here tonight.
But I mean, it's really, really noticeable during this section of the track, from pretty much turn 3 Coca-Cola corner all the way to Nets corner, turn 15, that Ruud is just so much more neater, more confident, more accurate. That would lean towards a higher downforce setup compared to Ryan, who's bumbling and bouncing across the curbs there, really struggling right now. And having to work the car so much harder, but he knows that, I mean, it's quite tricky to overtake on that infield section. It's not impossible, is it, Seb? But it is tricky, and Ryan playing the game, if he knows that if he can keep Ruud at bay, as soon as he gets out and start finish straight, he can take off, and there's nothing Ruud could do about it whatsoever.
No,
As once again, he's wide again, manages to miss the soft curbs, but can't get it done.
He can't, and I think, you know, Ryan has chosen this strategy of being absolutely slippery on the straights, being as quick as he possibly can be, and sacrificing sectors, sort of the end of Sector 1 and the whole of Sector 2. Ruud choosing to do a little bit of fuel saving. Maybe that's where he thinks he can get the advantage over Ryan. But you've been mentioning Ryan being a little bit wayward through Sector 2. That would come about from just not having enough downforce on the car. You see, he's just unable to really slow the car down, especially into the slow speed corners, turn 10. Dunlop, we were riding on board with him when he sort of cut across the grass. So it does sort of reinforce that point that Ryan is running less downforce. That's a late move.
I thought he was going to do it. I mean, you can see the difference in line through 100R, can't you, Seb? Turns 4 and 5, the double apex corner. Because, I mean, Ruud is just consistent. He's on one line, like his car's handling on rails, whereas Ryan looks like he's fighting the car, struggling for adhesion as he runs wide. And I do think maybe the track temperatures had been slightly higher. I think Ruud would have got it past Ryan by now. Just where he's having to work that car overtime in this, you know, during this sort of the infield, inverted commas, part of the circuit.
Yeah, certainly. Sorry, Tim, I didn't quite catch your question, but Ruud is almost running wide. I think the only hope that Ruud has got is if Ryan runs onto those sausage curves on the exit of either turn 13 or turn 16, the final corner, and that damages his car and that eliminates the straight line speed advantage that Ryan has in his number 11 Ferrari. Ruud, though, I mean, his race has been absolutely ruined, hasn't it, Tim? He was looking, I mean, he was really quick, and if it wasn't for that lap 1 incident where he had to avoid Bervin spinning across the track, he could have been so much further up the field. But Ryan proving the real Ferrari roadblock at the minute.
Loxon is yet to pit, still remaining in 6th place in the Audi. There he is right now. He's taking a bit of a look. Unfortunately, by the looks of things, he will drop. I tell you, he's going to drop around Formandson when he comes out. Who's only down in 9th place. So those two will be dueling once again. There is the BMW driver. It's currently one lap down against our leaders. I'll tell you what, Anders Meyer just getting past him as well, the 4th place driver, who's managed to maintain, is lapping around about the same lap time as the lead group. You can see it right now. Until Maivang really dropping back from Halvig. I like these. Oh, hold on, that's a change of position. Ruud's finally done it, Seb.
He has. What has happened? Is this going to be a mistake from Ryan? Yeah, so we've seen him go wide on the exit of turn 11, and that's just allowed Ruud to get a much better exit. With that more downforce, he's going to be able to apply the grip to the tarmac quicker, and Ruud gets through. But now we head down the back straight, but Ryan Jr. just too far away to make an impact, even with that electric straight line speed that we've seen from the 11 car all day long today. And that is why when you go for a low downforce setup, you are vulnerable in the low speed corners. Making a mistake is so easy, and just Ryan unable to get it slowed down for turn 10. And I think Ruud now is going to start just to drop Ryan and start to extend his gap, and maybe even get closer to Loxon in 6th place.
Well, Ruud will be licking his lips now with anticipation and excitement. Similar to myself with the smell of next door. Smells like a lasagna they've got cooking up. As we see our top two, Steinbraten and Halvig now.
What's happened to Mervang? Sorry to cut across you there.
No, funnily enough, that's why I decided he paused that, because he lost 4 tenths to them on the last lap alone, but even so, 2.8 seconds. Really dropped back. And he hasn't come off track. I mean, maybe just getting a bit loose, getting a bit leery, misjudging it, and see. I mean, it'd be interesting to listen in, and especially as we come around here into turn 10, Dunlop. Not fuel saving, or certainly not into that corner anyway. That would surely be a key place to fuel save into, Seb, and give an indication to maybe where he had to fuel save to get to the end, but this brings Anders Meyer right back into the equation, who is lapping at exactly the same pace as Steinbart and Helvig, which was 4 tenths quicker than Meyer last time around. There are your lap time differences, you can see. So somebody's up on lap 24, hasn't it? He's come off track and it's just overcooking it into one of the corners slightly and getting his line slightly wrong. I mean, that's all it takes. The guys in front of him are absolutely, you know, electric, really on the money, on the point. And as things stand at the moment, the duel between Meyer and Helvig, both of them have picked up 2 third places and 2 second places each. This is advantage Helvig, as he will win that private duel between the pair of them and pick up second place in the championship. As we have got a little over 15 minutes remaining here. Round 5 in the final round of the RacingLab Summer GT3 Cup here on Apex Racing TV. Biggest game on between our lead two. 6 tenths between them. So let's take a look. Oh no, Loxon in the Audi. Something has happened to him. What has happened? It's turn 10, it's Dunlop, and just missing his brake marker there.
Yeah, the ABS really chattering away to get that car slowed down without any front locking. Great job there by both Loxon and, in fact, the ABS system to arrest any form of incident that might have occurred. But Loxon really pushing, and he has to, right? Oh, there's Espresso Ryan Jr.
Well, that's sorted out that battle between Rude and Ryan, hasn't it?
This is the final corner. We saw him make a mistake in qualifying here, Tim, as he done exactly the same that he did in qualifying. He picks up a chunk of understeer. Oh, and actually, yeah. Actually, he goes very early to the curb, disrupting the car, maybe grounding out the floor. That doesn't provide him any grip, but very unusual to see a car spin there.
Well, Seb, what he did was he actually moved out wide so early with understeer that he actually caught the grass before the curbing starts, I believe. And that's what unsettled the car, as he suddenly hit the curb with his 2 left tyres and then careered him off, exiting stage right and into the barriers. But I don't think consider that car not looking in bad shape, the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. But has now dropped a whopping 12 seconds behind Rude, as Loxon has finally taken his pit stop in the Audi. He's come out in front of Formanson though. That's a good result for him. 2 seconds the advantage he has over the BMW driver. In the battle, there we go. There he is out of the pits. There is Formanson in the background. So that was a good job done from the Audi driver. He's in a little world of his own right now.
Oh, that's too quick. Anders Meyer. What could have been for him, hey? Hey, Tim, if he hadn't have made that mistake.
Seb, and then lit the tyres up in frustration and went back around the 180 degrees. Absolutely gutting for him, because I think he could see that the way that Meyer was dropping off the back of Steinbraten and Helvig in a real, you know, wrestling with the cars, fighting to close that gap up. He knew he had the pace. I mean, last time around, Seb, he was the 2nd fastest person on the track behind Steinbraten. Just to give you some idea on pace right now.
I mean, that's incredible. This is Anders Meyer's first event, and Steinbraten, Helvig and Meyer have had, you know, 4 rounds of racing to really understand their cars, and it's really turning into a fuel-saving strategic racing series. It's been enthralling to watch as a commentator, and Meyer coming in here not really having an idea of how to be rapid around, or in this series I should say. He's done an absolutely incredible job. Do you remember when I mentioned earlier on, after we saw Berven's spin actually into the same place in turn 3, that the Porsche is fairly neutral in terms of it doesn't understeer or oversteer. It's fairly well balanced until you start to push it a little bit too much, and then it becomes very tail happy. I think we're seeing exactly there. Meyer, as you mentioned, just seeing Meyer up ahead of him, Meyer was starting to catch Meyer. You start to push the car a little bit more, and that's unfortunately it caused him to spin.
So unlucky. So Meyer here today didn't have any bad luck. He wouldn't have any luck at all whatsoever, and I mean, it would have been tough. If you don't try, you'll never know, because Meyer has dropped further away from Helvig. It's going to get a bit of a distant tow from Ryan, who sits between himself and Helvig right now. But even so, you've got Helvig being towed along by Steinbraten. As I said, this will mean that Helvig will pick up second place in the championship and win that duel between himself and Meyer. So you've got a replay of Formundsen. The BMW, what are we going to see here, Seb? Running a bit wide. Oh, no. Into the barriers. Catching that bit of too much curb there, Seb, and well, that's not going to help him. We're trying to catch up with Loxon.
It won't, and I think he's got some form of steering damage. Thormundsen was off the track in a straight line sort of 3 or 4 times. You see it there. He's having to steer about 20 degrees to the right just to go in a straight line. So Thormundsen picking up damage in that little excursion he had into the barriers. Very similar to what we saw with Ryan, just picking up understeer on the first part of the corner, running in too deep, trying to collect or find the time that you're inevitably going to lose with that understeer. Puts the power down too early. The rear tyres can't take it. Mixed in with the camber of turn 16, and it's a one-way trip to the barriers. And Thormundsen's race comes, I think, unfortunately for him, to a premature end.
We are now inside the last 10 minutes. Steinbraten leads from Helvig, and Meyer running at your podium places. Anders Meyer in 4th, Sivertsen 5th. We've only mentioned about too much Sivertsen. As a relatively quiet race. Ruud 6th, Ryan 7th, Loxon 8th. Formundsen is still in the pit, so that's looking like race done for the BMW driver potentially in 9th. And Bevan we lost on lap 9. And Rory Sanfucci did not make the grid. As there goes Loxon, now a lap ahead of his rival Formundsen, and that's going to hurt a lot. But can Helvig do it? 7 tenths is what he needs to make up. We are now down to 7.5 minutes left on the clock. Can he do it, Seb? Can he do it? Well, we'll ponder that question in a second. Oh no, Anders Meyer. Oh wow, caught it this time though. Got it onto the grass a little bit on the exit, but kept it together, but wow. Catch of the day is not Pollock or Haddock. It's Anders Meyer heading through at Coca-Cola corner.
Yeah, turn 3 really proving to be a challenging spot for these Porsche drivers. I wonder if the car is just not really suited to Fuji, especially with the dominant Mercedes. You know, Meyer is absolutely having to push the every ounce of pace out of that car to keep up with the Mercedes. It's naturally a little bit quicker this season. You tend to find that in the GT3 classes. Once a new car is added, it takes a little bit of time for iRacing to find the perfect balance when it comes to how much weight the car needs, and all of these different performance metrics that iRacing can adjust, so we have a really fair set in terms of the field spread. You mentioned, Tim, about can Helvig do it? I think he can. Steinbraten, don't forget, has been leading this entire race, all 53 minutes of it, and he's been pushing his way through the air, where Helvig has just been able to slot in behind. So Helvig should have the fuel advantage. He should be slightly better in terms of his fuel mileage, and might be able to spare a little bit of fuel saving, like you see actually in Formula E, to be able to dive down to the inside, catch Steinbraten unaware, and take his first and only race win of this season if he can manage to do it. So I think Helvig's got a chance, but Steinbraten, I mean, he's been so rapid. He's won 4 races if anybody could defend from a rapid Helvik, it's got to be Ole Steinbraten.
Just managed to pull out the gap a little bit. 9 attempts as they came through Panasonic. That was around about 2 attempts larger gap compared to this time last lap. You can see Steinbraten 2 attempts quicker last time around. Now, again, you can hear him fuel saving into turn 1 sub. I suppose the killer question is, has he done enough? Clearly he doesn't think so, because this late stage of the race, with 5.5 minutes nearly left remaining, maybe he's just trying to cover up for the eventuality. Will this go to 1 extra lap? Which is actually quite a good question, to be fair. I think it's going to be a little bit close, isn't it, to go either way, which he's got 2 options now. Either a fuel saves to the max, or he just slows up Helvik enough to prevent it going to that additional lap and the fuel saves in effect that way.
I think he's going to be unable to do that. It's Steinbraten. Maivang is still in this race. If he starts to slow down, you know, not only does that give Helvik an opportunity to get by, but it gives Maivang a chance to get involved in this top 3 battle once again. I think Steinbraten, you're right. He's either got almost a fuel delta that you have, a set amount of fuel that you can use per lap, which you'll be working out on the fly. Actually, some fuel calculators like the SDK gaming software give you almost a really good idea of how much fuel you're using per lap, and at that rate, how many laps can you do. I do think Helvik, if Steinbraten was unable to make the extra lap and starts to slow down, Helvik will just say, well, I'm going to give it a go and try and get past and try and fuel save a little bit more. So Steinbraten is in, you hear him clutching in well before the braking zone of turn 1, but Helvik not really gaining. You see on the delta there, Tim, so he's fuel saving just as much. This really is starting to feel like a Formula E race, Tim. It's about who has done the most fuel or energy management, and it's all going to come down to, do we get an extra lap of racing?
Not long to find out until 4 minutes left of the season. Maybe you're sat at home thinking, do you know, I wish I was quick as Ole Steinbraten and they was fuel safe that much. Well, good news for you. With Apex Racing Academy and their 29 data pack, setups, track guides, integration VRAs, they have weekly group coaching sessions, which I know one of our fellow commentators here at Apex Racing TV, Austin Knight, has done so and found significant amount of time in touring cars. His weapon of choice, Hyundai Veloster. Make sure you check those guys out at Apex Racing Academy. They're fantastic coaching sessions. And as you said, Seb, Steinbraten saved them. Has Helvik saved enough? Oh, Maivang come back into contention as we come across the line, and it's a long run to the start-finish line, let alone this long straight. It's like a start to one of the Funny Bones books. A dark room, there was a dark straight, there was a dark room. But here in Fuji, it's all about the long straight. And I'll tell you what, Helvik, as we on board with him there, the RSR by G Performance Driver, saving just as much as Steinbraten. Closing up once again. And Seb, I think this is, yeah, it's 2 laps. This lap and white flag next time around, isn't it?
I do believe, and by a matter of seconds, I think if Steinbraten was 10 seconds further up the road, it would have been 3 laps, and that would have put pace to everybody's fuel-saving strategy. So it's all about who has got enough fuel, and you have to say that Steinbraten and Helvik look fairly similar on their level of fuel saving, both saving a lot into turn 1. Actually, it looks like Maivang is the one that's struggling with this sort of turn of events. He's dropping quite severely off the back of these two, so he clearly wasn't expecting the race to go an extra lap. But I think as long as Steinbraten and Helvik can keep up this same level of fuel saving, they should just about make it to the end. It's all going to be about, as we head into turn 1, has Helvik saved enough fuel that he doesn't need to save? He can not worry about getting on the clutch and dive to the inside.
Let's find out, Seb. Let's find out, because in approximately 3 corners time, We'll be coming out. Well, no, sorry, we're already there. Apologies. My miscalculation there. Already through Panasonic. These two last chicanes looking incredibly similar. He's too far back. Surely said it's half a second. He's gaining. He's gaining. I'll tell you what, look at the relative. It's almost like Steinbart was feathering the throttle down the start-finish straight, because the gap was like closing a little bit and then closing by a chunk, and then closing a little bit and then closing by a chunk. That says to me that Steinbart is not confident here whatsoever as we head through turn 3 for the final time. Coca-Cola corner through the swooping 100R that makes turns 4 and 5. The double apex is full straight into the hairpin at turn 6. Helvig getting slightly closer. Steinbart soaking up the pressure right now. Mercedes versus Mercedes. This all comes down to the driver and who's saved enough. As the gap is closing, I tell you what, Helvig just dipping the clutch again. I think he's not confident either. This is going to be interesting. There is a part marker they're coming up onto. That will be Rude, but too far ahead to play part of this story. As we're now into the final corners. Through 15, next corner, and surely Steinbart has done enough here, because that gap has increased ever so slightly by a couple of extra attempts as they come through Panasonic for the final time. This race and the final corner of the season. Ole Steinbart with a weave, your champion for this season, takes the victory and makes it 5 wins from 5 this season, and fastest lap of the race on the final lap to boot. As Helvig second, Maivang third. Wow, Sepp. Wow, what a season it has been.
What a season, and what a final lap to round out that season. That got mighty exciting at the end. I've thoroughly enjoyed this season. The addition of having, you know, a full tank of fuel, but they have to come into the pits, has opened up so many different strategies. But the master is Ole Steinbart, and he has been in a class of his own. This is actually, you know, the race that he's been most under pressure all season, and Steinbart has soaked all of that up.
He has indeed. So just wait for the last few drivers to head across the line, and then we will begin. We will be able to bring you your final Class 5 results of the season. So what? Oh no, I'm sure I've heard Rude spin in the background there. I was just about to say, he's been slowly catching Simpson on that final lap. Forget that, that is now done and dusted. Let's have a look. Pushing hard, dips into the curb. I think it was that final down change into first step that just seemed to lock up the rears and send him spinning.
It did, a very common cause. These GT3s do have a sequential gearbox, but it's not a seamless shift like it is in the Formula 1 cars. It takes a fraction of a second, and that just locked up the rear diff and around Rude, when not the first time we've seen Rude have an issue into turn 13. Great drive by him, though. But I think Civitan up ahead was struggling for fuel like other Mercedes drivers, and he could have ended up in 5th.
And there are your final Class 5 results for the season. Ole Steinbart taking the victory here today. Round 5 at Fuji, the RacingLab Summer GT3 Cup, and fully affirming his dominance on this championship. For 5 rounds, 5 pole positions, and 5 wins. He has literally been unbeatable. Helvig picks up his second place of the season, with Maivang in 3rd, and that sorts out that duel between those two drivers, with Helvig picking up 2nd in the... So Maivang picking up 2nd... Helvig picking up 2nd place in the championship, and Maivang picking up 3rd. That's interesting for Helvig. This is the last time he was 2nd was all the way back at Red Bull Ring, with Silver coming at Monza in rounds 1 and 2. And as Meyer, well, he could have been there, but just that damage early on put him out of contention. It was so gutting, because he would have really mixed things up between those top 3. And in the end, has to sell for 4th in the Porsche for RacingLab Esports. Eric Sivertson for Team Slow-Mo comes home 5th, with Rude in the Ferrari in 6th, especially Ryan Jr., the Team Slow Mo teammate of Sivertson, but he is in the Ferrari. He finishes 1 lap down in 7th. Likewise, Loxon in the Audi 1 lap down of Team Happy Life Factory Esports in 8th. Fred Formanson, he was 2 laps down that last late incident, meaning that he had to pit again, and that's what cost him dearly after he was battling towards the end with Loxon. With Team Vikings, a driver, Tor Anders Bevan, finishing 10th, although he did retire on lap 9. And Bjorn Royce, unfortunately, did not make the grid. And let's have a bit of a chat to some of our drivers. Well, I think it'd be rude not to chat to our winner first of all. As I said earlier, 5 wins from 5, 5 pole positions from 5. Ollie Steinbratton, I said you were truly unbeatable, and that those 2 reasons really reaffirm that. Congratulations. I mean, as much as the history books will look back and show that you completely and utterly dominated this series, as shown today at Fuji, maybe not quite, and definitely the closest that someone's come to beating you.
Yeah, thank you. To be fair, like Stefan is like such a good mate of mine, so my only goal for today was just to help him try to beat Odin. So I tried to just keep him in the slipstream and just gap Odin in P3. So that was a bit of the reason, but of course Stefan had really good pace today, so in race.
I mean, in the amount of fuel saving that you were doing, I mean, even on the final lap as well, Ole, it was, I mean, were you really struggling for fuel? It was a very short stop. I mean, 1.5 seconds. It's we haven't seen that quick a stop since Red Bull Ring in round 2.
Yeah, I actually had 8.8 liters over the line, so it was mainly just to keep Stefan behind me.
Okay, wow, a bit of helping out your friends there and a bit of teamwork making the dream work for Stefan, to allowing him to pick up second in the championship. But, well, I mean, fastest lap, final lap. I mean, what has been your highlight from this season?
I don't know. I think basically the whole series or the whole season has been like a highlight, because I feel like I've not really made any mistakes, and I've been happy with my qualifying laps and race pace in all of the races. So I think like the highlight has basically just been the whole season.
Well, there we go. I can't argue with that one at all. And, well, congratulations, you're champion of the Racing Lab Summer GT3 Cup, Ole Steinbratton. Seb, who have you managed to rustle up to have a bit of a chat to?
I've managed to find our second place man, Stefan Helvik. Stefan, welcome to the commentary booth once again. This time, regaining your highest finish of the season, second place. How did it feel out there at the Fuji circuit?
Well, as I bought the track before the race, I wasn't really confident, or I had a 2-hour session with one of my new teammates who did officials here that week, and I got to know the track pretty good. And yeah, I had some more practice than I have had for the other races, but still was a new track for me, and I couldn't really figure out the last sector in time, so I lost a lot of time there. But the first sectors, I think I gained a lot, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly worked out for you. We heard actually from Ole that he was sort of helping you out a little bit, giving you the slipstream, so you could, I should say, secure second place in the championship. Is that how you saw it from your side?
Yeah, definitely how it was. Ole was a huge help, as always. We've talked through the championship, for the whole championship, and we're great friends. And I'm really happy for what he did to me, or helped me with. Means a lot. But yeah.
Well, I mean, congratulations. It's, of course, the final race of the season. I think, you're going to finish in second place after all the points are totaled up. How do you think this season went for you? Any best moments you think from the season combined?
Yeah, I mean the Red Bull race where I ticked off the windshield wipe or whatever it's called, and I got the gap. That was probably the highlight of the season. And then this race where I've never sweated so much in the race. I've like probably never had as much pulse in this race as well, because I just like keep having the thought of making a mistake. So I mean, it's a good learning experience as well.
Well, thank you very much for continuing to come in and talk to us in the commentary box. I'll ask you the same question I've asked everyone, you previously, I should say. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all?
Yeah, of course I gotta give a shout out to Ole, who helped me through the whole season. We practiced together, and yeah, we talked through the races. He's been a huge help. And my parents, you're probably watching this right now. Hello, and for them fixing me up this beautiful rig and giving me the opportunity to race on the evenings and practice in the days. And
Well,
also my new team, Sable Esport, who I joined 2 days ago. So thank you to them with TJ McLean, who I practiced with before the race, and a good setup that I used throughout the race.
brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on your second place in the race and second place in the championship. And Tim, have you managed to find anybody else to have a quick chat to?
Oh, Seb, I have indeed. You know me, and we wouldn't be a race here at Apex Racing Team if we didn't manage to grab all of our podium sitters. Odin Myvank now joins us in the commentary booth. Odin, what a season! It's been a season-long battle between yourself and Stefan Helvig, and no different here whatsoever. But I mean, last stage of the race, you seem to just sort of tail off a little bit. Were you struggling with fuel, tyres, both, or was it almost a little bit of you knew that you wouldn't be able to catch them and sort of just settling for third?
I don't know. I messed up. I was on his tail. I felt like I had pretty decent control over it, and I saw he was stressing, so I tried to just psych him out a bit and just stay behind him for a while. And meanwhile, I made a mistake myself, and then they just went away. They capitalized on that, so couldn't catch up and gave up pretty much.
I mean, I'm trying to think back to which lap it was, but there was an absolute epic one down the start-finish line where you pulled out of the draft, to sort of fake a move 6 times. Of course, only at Fuji could you do such a thing to the length of the start-finish straight, but it was amazing to see. And I mean, sort of early on, was it just more about staying in the draft to fuel save as opposed to passing Stefan?
I don't know. I think we had plenty of fuel to begin with. I used the crew chief, and he only said I had to fuel 1 liter during the race, so I was no problem saving in that. But I was running 9 in wing, and they were running 6, so I just couldn't catch them on the straight or go past them there. So I had to get them in the twisty part, and that's where I screwed up. So yeah.
Hey, but as they say, if there's an instant, you've got to be there to take advantage of it. And well, you were there the whole race long, and just unfortunately, there wasn't an instant. Stefan, Odin, sorry, we've asked you of asked this question to everyone. We'll ask yourself the same. What's been your highlight of the season?
I don't know, racing. It was racing in general. It was just fun, good racing.
Well, I tell you what, it's looked like some epic racing every single round between yourself and certainly Stefan. But congratulations, third place in the championship, Odin. I will speak to you again soon.
Yep.
Well, Seb, what a season it has been with big crazy results. No different here whatsoever. We've asked all the drivers. I'm going to ask you now, what was your favourite moment of the season?
I think it's got to be all the way back at race 1 in Monza when we had that mega battle for second. Unfortunately, it ended up in disaster heading into turn 1, but I think that has got to be my highlight. The other highlight, of course, Red Bull Ring, that's really strategic race. And honestly, all of the races, they've all had this really great undercurrent of strategy, which has made it so enjoyable to watch and, in fact, commentate on.
There we go. As for one highlight of the season, But like his surname, where he's got two surnames, Bosch and Williams, he gives you two favourite moments of the season. That is our Seb for you. But, well, Seb, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Your insight and knowledge around GTs has been absolutely amazing all season. But, well, what can we say? Congratulations, Ole Steinbraten, who made it with what looked like at a canter at times. But even so, total domination, every pole position, every first place, all 5 rounds. Monza, Red Bull Ring, Sebring, Imola and Fuji. You couldn't really get a much eclectic, different mixture of tracks. Such is the quality that from him that has shined through all season long. But well, what can we say? We will see you soon on Apex Racing TV. I've been Tim Cox with Seb Bosch Williams and Lewis Ward in the production booth. Thanks very much, and good night.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.